So the next question is from Anis Hidayati. Please, Anis.
Can you see me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Me too.
Hello, Greg.
Hello.
Which one come in Indonesia? I am in Malang. Semeru, you come in my country? Okay, like that. I think enough, Mbak Gana.
I think there is a problem with connection. Do you want to say that if he would like to go to Semeru, what was that? I don't get your point because I think there is a trouble. Can you say that again? Because you said your question was what is the best experience in Indonesia compared to another country? So this is what you wrote here.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Anis. So what was your best experience in Indonesia?
That's such a tough question. Okay, so when I get to it goes from like Malang to seeing that village and being able to meet the people and then fly my drone to going to these amazing waterfalls and then seeing in my drone as it goes over the top, and it's this incredible like 3 falls going. So all of it, I'm like a kid, and my drivers laugh at me because they're like, are you okay? I'm like, oh my God, wow, look at this. And they're like, it's so, I go berserk there. Like, I'm like, hang on, let's go. We got to go. No, 1 sec. And I can't get enough. So I think for me, probably the last trip was really fond when I went into, what's that big waterfall that you go into? I'm trying to think of the names of them all. Tempak Siwu? Is that Tempak Siwu with all the strands? Tumpak Sewu. Yeah. Tumpak Sewu. So all the strands, incredible. And there was the first time I hiked down inside it. So I usually drone over top, and I only had time before. Everything's usually about time. So I only had time to go over top and see it. And then this time for sure was top of my list. So I went down inside of it, and just being inside of there was like, it's incredible. Like, I just love the feeling of the water and the rushing, and it's not cold and you're wet. So who cares, because it's warm, and it just wasn't beautiful. And we can get beautiful shots. But yeah, all of it, I think just any of the nature trips, like, and then we've got the cave. What is the cave? It's in
Kawah Ijen.
Jogja. Yeah. Over, like, that was incredible. So the cave was funny because I don't know if anyone's ever been to this cave. So what happens is there's a beam of light that comes in, and that's very rare. Like, I've been to a few caves and there's no beam of light. Only a certain time of year you can catch these light rays. Well, we were in there with about 20 people, 25 people. And then some of the light came in the opening, so it started to shine down, and then everyone snapped their picture and everyone's in everyone's way. But my guy, smart, he knows the area. So he's like, don't worry about it. This isn't the light you want. They all took their pictures and then left because everyone's impatient. They're not patient. So they left. And then there was like 7 of us, and we waited 10 minutes, not even 15 minutes. So they were already hiking out to go up and go home or wherever to go. We waited 10, 15 minutes, had this amazing, then the light got so bright and the beam was amazing. We got all our footage and everything. Like, it was just, there's no words to describe the feeling of that, because here I don't have any of that. The most I have is a small cave, but like, it's just incredible. So all of it, like, I'm blown away by almost every single location I go to, because I have a list. I just submit the list to my drivers and I go, take me here, let's do a schedule. But then when I get there, I'm just like, wow. And I almost want to go back to all of them again, but there's so many new ones to see. So I would just say Tumpak Siwu.
Tumpak Sewu.
Tumpak Sewu. See, I'm out of practice. I haven't been there in a while.
Yay. So good. Jadi pengalaman yang paling menyenangkan adalah ketika dia berada di Malang. Kalau nggak salah itu rumah yang berwarna-warni itu ya, yang atapnya warna-warni, pelangi begitu ya. Kemudian ada lagi Tumpak Sewu dan Kawah Ijen. Dia heran kenapa orang-orang tuh sukanya cepat-cepat aja untuk moto-motoin tempat-tempat wisata itu. Padahal dia bisa jam-jaman ya nontonnya sambil wah kayak anak kecil gitu, wah gitu ya. Jadinya sangat terpukau begitu karena di negaranya tuh nggak ada seperti itu. Dan untuk melihat lagi kan jauh banget. Makanya kita yang ada di Indonesia nih, saya di Jerman ya. Jadi yang untuk di Indonesia nih, jadi harus memanfaatkan kekayaan yang ada di Indonesia. Kayak saya ini udah ketinggalan nih. Dulu-dulu kenapa nggak ke sana-sana gitu? Ketika mau ke sana udah di Jerman, jauh banget kan? Gitu. Oke. Oke, terima kasih Mbak.
I just love hearing the way you tell.
Hey, stop.
Oh, I like it. It helps
Good.
me learn.
The next question is from Celestine Patterson. Hello, Greg. How to find out your hobbies, such as traveling in current situation? Because now it's pandemic, and you said you were in Canada and then to California and then want to go to Indonesia and I don't know where else, Africa. I don't know.
So what I did was I took advantage of it and I had to find new things to do. So I wrote scripts. I started writing a book. I started to, yeah, like and then I started coaching people with meditation. So on my Instagram, I would post about meditation and then people DM me and they'd be like, help, I want to. So I was doing like this meditation coaching. It was so cool. And it's really helped a lot of people. So it's just, I think that I didn't want to focus on all that stuff. And then I was submitting some articles online about it and talking about it on some of the news channels. So yeah, it was just such a weird year. So it was nice because I caught up on all the stuff. I'm always behind. So when I travel, I come home and I'm behind on everything. My work, cleaning the car, like whatever, I'm always behind. So I caught up on all that paperwork and admin work and writing and stuff that I've always wanted to do. So I guess you could say, and watching movies, I've been studying movies and I make notes and stuff. So, because I want to be better when I film something, I always study how the scene is broken down. And so it's giving me this awesome time that I never had before to watch all the stuff I've always wanted to do. So I took a break from creating really. And now I'm revving to go create a ton of stuff this year. So I guess it's kind of like a meditative year for me to really just take a step back and figure out what it is that I want to do with what's left in life. And some of the goals have aligned and shifted. So I would say my hobbies were just catching up and writing and helping people.
Karena sekarang ini sedang masa pandemi, jadi dia banyak nemuin hobi-hobi yang membuat dia nggak boring gitu ya. Kayak misalnya menulis naskah, menulis buku, dan meditasi. Saya tadi udah cerita ya, bahwa dia itu pernah kecelakaan dan mengalami kematian selama 2 kali. Jadi udah mati, hidup lagi, mati, hidup lagi. Ini orang nyawanya banyak nih, 1000. Terus untuk itu dia banyak melakukan coaching meditasi. Jadi orang-orang juga menyukai bahwa karena dia kan belum pernah mati ya, jadi beda banget dengan orang yang belum pernah mati. Jadi dia tahu gimana rasanya. Kayak misalnya ada lampu-lampunya gitu. Kalau dia mati itu ada terowongan gitu, gelap tapi ada lampunya kayak gitu-gitu deh. Pokoknya kayak di film-film gitu. Terus abis itu dia mengajak orang-orang itu untuk gimana caranya biar pikirannya tuh jernih dengan meditasi 1 jam. Dia itu meditasi tiap hari tuh. Kemudian semoga hobi-hobi ini bisa menjadi inspirasi bagi teman-teman semuanya. Untuk Kompasianer pasti sudah hal yang biasa ya, karena kita juga nulis di blognya kompasiana.com. Jadi kita adalah salah satu orang yang kalau di masa pandemi sebenarnya nggak bakalan kena imbas karena bisa ya di rumah aja tapi bisa nulis gitu kan. So, next is Pak Sutiono. Greg, which island in Indonesia is the best for you? Say Java.
Well, so far it's Java for sure. East Java, I love it. I go back all the time.
Okay.
Jogja, like all of it. It's just so much condensed fun.
Java.
It's just awesome everywhere you go. I love Java.
You want to stay in Bali, you said, right?
No, it's an international airport, so I fly into Bali because I don't want to go to Jakarta, too busy. So I'm allowed to fly to Bali instead. That's why I start in Bali.
Okay, because I thought,
and it usually gives me a couple days to have coffee and chill. Yeah.
Okay,
but
good.
I can't. And that's just where I go rather than, and I start there. So I don't know why. I guess I just do.
Okay, jadi dia ini menyukai Jawa. Dan dia pengennya ke Bali karena di sana ada bandara ya, bandara internasional. Kalau misalnya saya terbang tuh dari Jerman ke Bali bisa langsung ya. Jadi nggak perlu ke Jakarta dulu, sebenarnya bisa. Jadi praktis banget dan memang peluangnya bagus. Next is from Mira, travel blogger Purwokerto. Okay. So hello Gana and Gregg, can you give me a tip how to make photo for beginner? Because I use a mobile camera. Do you use your camera, your handphone, your mobile phone camera to make pictures, or only your camera?
Usually this is my other camera, my Sony cameras. My mobile phone would be for just the Insta stories and stuff. I usually film those there. But yeah, that's a lot of people. There's a lot of good Instagrammers that just use their phone. I mean, there's amazing accounts. You look at their phone. So the one tip I would give you is learn your light and composition. So take interesting photos where you're following compositional rules. And if you don't know compositional rules, if you're a beginner, always look up what that means on the internet. Like, so Google composition for photography, and then you'll understand what leading lines are, or how to get an epic background, or how to frame a shot so it's interesting. And then using light. So if you're shooting outdoors, the sun is your light. There's no light unless you bring a light yourself or bring reflectors. But I always take the 45-degree rule. So if I'm shooting this way, I try to light it with the 45-degree angle with the sun coming on my scene or off to the side. I don't want the sun in my face unless I'm creating a silhouette. So that's probably the biggest rules is composition, because the phone cameras they're amazing. They're like 4K. So you can get incredible photos just using your phone. But I would just make the composition interesting. And the phone cameras around, if you don't know focal length, it's about 33 millimeters is iPhone. I'm not sure what Android is, but that's a wide angle. That's awesome for landscapes. It's good for portraits. It's good if you go like in close like that. It elongates people. So if someone's shorter, the 33 inches will actually make them stretch them out. So you can do a lot with your phone. And the beautiful thing about a phone is you don't have to worry about all the settings. It does it for you. So being a beginner, yeah, you can just go around and shoot and shoot as much as you can. And that way you can learn about your composition and your light. Because once you have those two, if you like shooting landscapes. Now, if you're shooting portraits, I do shoot them sometimes, but portraits is really just playing with it. And that's how your phone camera at 33 millimeter is going to take an awesome portrait, because it's going to give you some nice background with the portrait up front. And it's not going to be like so blown out. So I would just use the camera as is. I wouldn't zoom in unless it's optical. I would avoid doing that. And depending on what kind of phone it is, might not be that good at night. So you can find there's apps out there. If someone DMs me, I can dig up an app. But I used to. Do you know what phone it is? Can you ask her what phone they use? Do you know what phone is it?
Mira, ini HP-nya apa ya? Mereknya apa? Halo, Mira.
I'll write it in here. There's an app. So iPhone's really good at it. Can I respond to these here?
Okay, I can tell a little bit. Jadi teman-teman, bagi yang menggunakan kamera HP untuk memotret, biasanya sebenarnya sih sudah ada settingnya kan, jadi lebih mudah begitu ya. Dan untuk kamera dari HP itu bagus untuk landscape, untuk potret juga, kemudian untuk close up juga. Kita tetap harus memperhatikan lighting dengan komposisi. Jadi kita harus tahu komposisinya bagus enggak gitu ya. Dan itu bisa didapatkan di internet juga. Ini sekarang juga lagi nyari. Kemudian dia ada satu hal yang tidak dia suka adalah kalau cahaya itu menyinari wajahnya langsung gitu, mungkin blended gitu ya. Jadi jadi matanya nggak bisa kebuka gitu kali ya.
So I just wrote the app. Yeah. So if you're doing night photos, usually your phone's not that great for night, and you can't do long exposures because of the technology. So there's an app I just wrote in the comments called Cortex Cam. I used to use it all the time for night shots, but you have to have some lighting. So when you click it, it takes 10 photos and then combines them, so you can actually get a pretty decent night shot. But yeah, that's a lot of people start with their phone, so that's a good place to start. And you're lucky nowadays because the phone is like awesome camera.
Jadi tergantung kameranya juga ya, atau tergantung dari suasananya tadi. Oke, kita langsung ke Mbak Tamita. Halo Mbak Tami.
Greg, good afternoon in here.
Hello.
I hope if you visit Indonesia, you can you not only for photography business. So I want to ask you about the meaningful of the journey, your journey in Indonesia, especially in your spirituality. I hear from Gana that you are generally make meditation like that. Can you tell me more, maybe when you
absolutely
feel when you in Indonesia and in another country? Thank you.
Terima kasih Mbak Tami.
Sure.
Semoga bisnisnya lancar. Meditation, quite interesting.
It always comes up with me. So, okay, well, when I'm in Indonesia, it's very easy to have a meditative state because I'm surrounded by nature all the time.
Yes.
And meditation is the journey. So a long time ago, I started challenging all my friends to 30 days, meditate every single day. Week 1, you start with 20 minutes. Week 2, you start with 30 minutes. Week 3, you go to 45 minutes. And by week 4, when you're at 60 minutes, so every day you sit still, don't do anything, completely still, and just meditate and breathe, and that's it. So if you do that for the 30 days, all the people I've given, and I'm talking like hundreds of people, their lives have changed. 1, they get a different consciousness. They start seeing the world completely different. 2, they're more connected with their soul. So then they know what their next steps are and they let their soul guide them rather than thinking all the time, overthink. So the spiritual part of that is super important because we're sitting here right now and talking and having a good conversation based on me meditating years ago and just getting guided towards this because 1, it felt right and I didn't think about it. I didn't think, oh, how much money am I going to make? What about the money? Where's the money? I just went and did it. And then it keeps leading to better and better things because I feel like whether you believe in God, Allah, the universe, higher power, whatever you call it, there's a force and an energy that just supports you and it supports your path and it supports who you are and it supports the things you love. So if you connect with that, and that's why I challenge all my friends and people to meditate, because if they commit to that meditation every day, your consciousness will completely change. Your understanding of yourself, the world, everything. So as that relates to Indonesia, it's guided me to keep coming back and coming back and coming back. And it's like that country is now a part of me. And when I'm there, I feel the sacredness of a lot of how the people feel and how they treat their land and what it actually means to them. So it just has such a different energy. I mean, I've never felt like I'm in danger in Indonesia, ever. I've never felt as a foreigner, I'm in trouble or someone doesn't like me or whatever. I've always felt welcome. And even if people don't know what a Canadian is and they just see me as some American or whatever, and even if they've had a bad experience with a foreigner, I still get treated well. So for me, I find that kind of energy just as a whole is spiritual in itself because it just promotes feeling good rather than feeling bad. Does that make sense? So the importance of that in everyone's day's life, you kind of, it's kind of like this conversation we're having. Like if, and I was saying this before, if to Gana, if you pick up one thing that helps you in your life, whether it be photography or just business or life, then it was worth sitting down with me today. But if you get nothing for it, then hey, you lost an hour and maybe I'll buy you a coffee when I come. But that whole, there's a reason for everything. So there's a reason we're sitting here talking. There's a reason you guys have sat on the call to listen. And there's a reason for meditating so you can connect with that soul and understand that journey, because you got to think our brains are always going. It's brutal. Our phones, social media, boom, 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 bombarded with everything. And unless you sit still for a while and just balance out, you're not going to get clarity. And where are you going to get clarity for? So the clarity is important for your life path, your career, who you're in a relationship with, who your friends are. That's clarity, because then you get guided towards things that are right for you. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
You don't want to waste time with the things that are wrong for you, because then that's you feel scattered and just discombobulated. I don't even know the translation. Do you guys have a word for discombobulated? What's the word for that, Gana? Discombobulated, like confusion and not organized. What's the word in Bahasa? Gachao. No gachao. No.
Galau. Nowadays people say galau.
Galau.
Dia ini mengajari orang untuk meditasi, misalnya trainingnya itu 30 hari. Jadi hari pertama tuh, minggu pertama itu biasanya 1 menit aja untuk duduk dan diam. Karena orang kan kalau nggak biasa meditasi kan, oh ini ngapain gitu, ini gimana caranya gitu kan. Nah, untuk minggu kedua baru 30 menit. Jadi duduk 30 menit, diem aja nggak ngapa-ngapain. Jadi semedi gitu ya, kayak orang zaman dulu. Setelah itu minggu ketiga 45 menit dan minggu keempat, jadi yang ke-30 harinya ini 1 jam. Nah di saat orang tuh lagi still, lagi diem gitu, lagi tenang, biasanya itu kan jiwanya juga ikut tenang gitu kan. Nah setelah jiwanya tenang tuh biasanya pikirannya tuh jadi terang, jadi bening, jadi tahu. Kalau biasanya kita kan wah handy, wah telepon, wah ada temen, ada apa, TV, gini-gini kan, itu kan membuat otak kita tuh jadi kacau gitu kan. Nggak fokus. Nah, dengan semedi ini meditasi, dia bilang ini akan membuat jalan hidup kita lebih lurus, kemudian karir kita lebih bagus, kemudian relasi kita dengan orang-orang di sekitar kita juga akan lebih harmonis gitu ya. Kemudian dia sendiri karena dengan meditasi ini banyak orang kan cerita, wah Indonesia banyak ini nih, banyak begal, banyak rampok, banyak maling, banyak corona atau apa aja gitu ya. Tapi dia merasa dia tetap aman ada di Indonesia karena dia sendiri sudah membuat dirinya itu tentram dengan meditasi tadi setiap hari 1 jam. Kemudian dengan meditasi ini orang atau dia berkata bahwa yakin akan menjadi perasaannya jadi lebih bagus, jadi nggak kacau gitu, tadi dibilang nggak galau gitu, karena dengan meditasi tadi seperti ada cool down selama 1 jam dan itu secara reguler setiap hari. Baik, selanjutnya ada dari Pak Sutiono, tadi udah dibilang ya bahwa Gregg pakai Canon D50 kalau nggak salah ya. And what kind of camera do you have now, Gregg? Because the first time was Canon 50?
I shot Canon in the early days. And then when I went to Vietnam, I shot that all on Canon. And then I flew to Hong Kong to meet friends to go photograph the city. And at nighttime, it was terrible. I couldn't photo anything at night. I was going crazy. So all my friends were handhold shooting. They were holding their camera at night. And I'm like, what ISO are you at? And they're like, I don't know, 8,000 or 10,000 for that. I'm like, what? Because the Canon, once you start going above 800, you had to do a long exposure to keep it sharp. You couldn't handhold it. It was just not that kind of camera. So they were all shooting Sony. So I started to use their camera. I said, let me see. And it was crystal clear. This shot was like amazing. So I started taking a couple shots. After that night, I used their camera the whole trip and I didn't touch my Canon again. I flew back. I did another couple trips. I flew back to America. I sent my Canon back to get cleaned and then I sold it all. So I started shooting Sony and then quickly I became sponsored by Sony. So now I work only 100% Sony. The 2 cameras I shoot with primarily is the A7R3 and the A7S3 just came out. I'm going to put this new film. It's probably going to be filmed a lot on that A7S3. A7R3 and the A7 are the cameras I use. The A7R3 is like my go-to for landscapes because it's an incredible, you can get a massive 42 megapixel file that you can blow it up so big it'll just be, you can make a billboard out of it. So it's incredible. And the dynamic range on Sony is just phenomenal. So there's so many advantages to using Sony cameras and they're so much smaller. It's mirrorless as opposed to the Canon mirrored, it's a DSLR camera. So Sony, the best mirrorless technology you can get. And the beautiful thing is if there's any beginners here or anybody, you can buy Sony cameras that are less and much more affordable and get a way better camera inside this little body than you can with a lot of other brands. So I chose to use Sony, and then fortunately they liked my work, so I got to join their team, and now I shoot with Sony, and we do trips and travel together, and we work on projects together. So can't say enough. If anyone ever wants to learn or wants to shoot, it's super easy, and the camera does a lot of the work. I almost feel guilty because it's doing all the work for me. But it's incredible technology, and it's such a good time to be taking photos because the technology is like incredible than what it used to be.
How much is it?
Well, that's what I mean. So you can start off with just like a $400 or $500 Sony and then go up. The ones I use usually start around 3,200 US, and then the lenses and stuff go up from there. But I use kind of like the top tier because I have to provide stuff for brands, but you can still get awesome. I mean, there's photographers that have award-winning photos that were off like a little $500 unit, just a little in your pocket. Because sometimes you're in a boat, in a canoe or a kayak, and you can't bring your bigger camera, so you bring the small one and just snap some pictures. And I've seen guys win awards with just little point and shoots. There's tons. There's RX100 is amazing camera because it's got optical zoom built in. RX100, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. There's so many cameras, but I would get into that if you were ever starting out. It's such a good little camera, and it's small. It's just pocket size. It's tiny, and you just throw it in your pocket, you pull it out, snap stuff. I used it actually at the waterfalls too. I always have a second and third camera on me, just the little guys, just for the small ones. And then they've got the RX 0, which is about this big, but it's like a cinema camera in a little, it's like square. It's incredible. And that's waterproof. It's like, you can put it anywhere and get amazing footage and amazing photos.
Ini pakai Sony mirrorless yang A7A3 untuk landscape dan A7S3, Pak Sutiono ya. Kemudian harganya sendiri adalah sekitar $500 Amerika sama dengan 3.200, tergantung kecil besarnya. Terus dia bilang tadi bahwa kalau dia mengadakan perjalanan dimanapun, dia nggak cuma bawa satu kamera, tapi sampai 3 ya. Jadi ada beberapa kamera pocket misalnya yang lebih kecil, lebih besar lagi, kemudian paling besar gitu. Ada second, third cameras ya. Karena waktu itu dia bingung kenapa dia pakai Sony mirrorless itu, karena waktu dia masih pakai Canon, dia lihat teman-temannya tuh waktu malam tuh masih bisa motret, terus dia heran, kok mereka bisa motret aku enggak gitu kan. Akhirnya dia pakai yang Sony mirrorless ini tadi. Oke, good. Ketut Diastrana.
How's it going?
I'm fine, thank you. I want to ask, I like photography and I'm planning to start pursue career in photography. Can you give me a tip a bit about career in photography?
Did you want to like a tip just in photography, as in like taking photos for photography? Like when you say you want a career in it, what do you mean? Like, do you want to work with brands, or do you want to work with companies, or do you want to like do like weddings? Okay. Mm-hmm. Do you have equipment right now? Do you have any camera?
Yes, I have.
What do you photograph right now?
Like buildings, people, and small objects like that.
That's a good question. Absolutely. If you have social media, I would put all your work on social media, all your best work. Never put the same shot in multiple series. Like pretend you take a picture of a building, only put your best shot on. So that's one tip. Don't put like 5 different angles of it. Just pick the best and run with it. 2, I would start photographing things. So if you wanted to do it as a business, I would pick a business that you like and you know they need help and you know their website could use photography, and just approach them and be like, hey, I'm a photographer. Let me shoot your building, and then make it like into a little deal, and just try to say, well, my fees are like this, but try and get your foot in the door and start doing that. When I started doing stuff for free just to do it. I didn't even care. I just wanted to have a photo and to go out and do something with a brand. And then eventually, obviously you had to charge for it, but there's a lot of us that we just did stuff for cheap or free or trade. Sometimes we would approach a brand and they would go, okay, we'll send you the equipment and you go photograph it for us. But you can only do that so long because you need to feed yourself and your family and stuff. So I would start there. I would make sure your Instagram is strong, number one. Put only your best photos up there. If you've got anything that's not related to it, make it like a personal business account and call it like Your Name Photography or whatever you want to call it. And then start approaching companies, just call them. And if not, go visit them and show them, just show up your phone and just be like, look, this is what I do. And give them ideas. Just be like, your, you know, restaurants or your business is I like it for these reasons. And then just tell them, just say, I think that we can do this together. Because if you approach them just with the photos, it's not going to be enough. But if you approach them with a concept about how you can improve their business or their social media or an idea or concept to help them improve photos on the menu, photos on anything that's going to help them, then that's where you're going to win. Because nowadays people, sometimes they just want to take their own photos and they might not be the greatest, but I would 100% recommend that. And then the other thing is watch as many tutorials as you can to get good at editing photos. So there's 2 steps. One, shooting, you can shoot all day because sometimes you might take 1,000 photos and you might get 3 of them that are any good. So it just depends on how good you are. And then when you come with brands, you make a deal. So your business skill is what's going to make you survive in this industry in order to keep the client happy, but then keep the relationship strong. So that if you do a good job, there will be more for you. And then also usually that company will know somebody else. And then you ask them, and always ask, be like, is there anybody that you know that would need my services? You could help recommend me. Always get a warm lead from these people and just keep building and building the momentum. So I would approach everybody as a business and set yourself up as a business. And do you have a website or anything?
I have an Instagram and website.
Okay, good. So you're halfway there. So now your next step is go through it today or whenever you get a chance this week. Any photos that aren't your best, get rid of them. I've done that. Like I got them. Like I even look back at my early photos. I don't want to. I look back and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like it's not even that good of a photo, but I took it. So who cares? It's not bad. And they got a lot of traction. So keep that momentum going, but approaching businesses, because I've gotten so much work just by asking. That's it. They'd be like, hey, so, you know, I was looking at your business and I thought, well, why don't you do a video or something on this? I could totally do it for you. And once you just get that conversation started and then realize, like, once you qualify them and find out that, oh, wow, they are looking for assets, then it's a good fit. Then you just say, propose something, and then just write a proposal and say, you know, I can propose it. Just say, what's your budget, and find out kind of where they're at for budget, and just try to get yourself in the door that way. So, and I've even gone to brands that I want to work with. I'll be like, look, I'll do this. If you give me ABC gear, I'll go and shoot this for you. And that turned into paid client down the road, because there's a ton of really good photographers. So if you prove yourself, then they just have that confidence in you to keep going and to give you more opportunity. So yeah, just, have you been approaching businesses at all?
Yes, recently I take photo contests and I won like that. And
nice.
Business and business. My friend sometimes ask me to take the wedding picture and their ceremony picture like that, and their house for sold like that.
So you're already doing it. So the name of this game is no one's ever going to call you on your stuff. Like, it's very rare that you just sit around and the phone rings. With me, I'm always reaching out. I'm always in contact with brands or people I know, even photographers. Sometimes I'll do a project together with one. So just keep going. And it sounds like you're doing a good job as it is. Just keep going and approaching those businesses. And as the brands, like the companies, get bigger, you have to approach them with concepts and always book a call. So I never try to don't sell over voicemail and don't sell over email. I kind of just say, I have a concept. It'll be perfect for your brand. Book the call, send an invite, book the call with whatever company you want to work with, and then have the presentation ready so you can present to them. That's usually how it goes. But yeah, you just keep going. And I would just keep approaching the people that you want to take their assets, and you want to take those shots. Like, approach those companies you want to work with.
Okay.
Because you don't want to be doing this if you don't love it. You know what I mean? So you always want to try to give them your best. But congratulations on winning the photo contest. Those are
Thank you.
literally impossible to win. It's very hard. It's like 10,000 million submissions or billion. And then here you are, you won. So that's substantial.
Okay. So, tipnya dari Gregg ini adalah yang harus diperhatikan ketika ingin menjalani bisnis fotografi ini adalah pertama angle-nya dulu, habis itu bisnisnya ini mau dibawa kemana gitu. Yang ketiga adalah foto-foto terbaik sebaiknya dimasukkan ke Insta, tapi jangan dicampurkan antara Insta pribadi dengan Insta bisnis. Jadi dua-duanya harus punya gitu ya. Kemudian ada lagi yang bisa dilakukan adalah dengan menelpon atau menghubungi dari bisnis partner yang akan kita ajak kerjasama. Kemudian jangan hanya menunggu, tetapi jemput bola. Artinya kita harus memberikan ide apa yang bisa dilakukan antara kalian sebagai fotografer dan klien kalian sebagai sponsor. Okay, we go to Laila Inggil.
Please read it by Mbak Gana.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Gana and Gregg. Let me ask you something. What are obstacles to being a photographer? Especially being a photographer who has traveled around the other countries.
Sorry, could you repeat that question? You just cut out at the beginning.
What are obstacles to being a photographer around the world? Because you visit not only Indonesia but other countries too. And as photographer might be different if I travel as a traveler or tourist or student or whatever. Somehow like that. I don't know.
Traveling, here's the thing. So nowadays we're lucky because you can work with companies and get them kind of to pay for your travel. And if you have a strong following or an engaged social media following, you can get a lot of advantages out there that you couldn't get 7 years ago, 8 years ago, just weren't available. So with me, I always fit in some pleasure, but I'll go for business. So I've just created this way that I could keep working with brands, but kind of bust my butt and give them content that they're actually going to use and use for their brand, and they'll make money and sell more products. So it's a win-win. So what I do, I definitely do. Like if I'm going to go all the way to Asia, that's like if I go to Indonesia, it's 20 hours probably day flight to take 2 planes. Definitely going to book some fun time for sure. But with me, fun time always ends up I go shoot something anyways. But I will take time just to go relax or go speak at a conference or do something that's always fun, because I don't ever see it as work. I just see it as one big vacation. So I'm fortunate that way, but I love it, because if you don't, like, if you go on vacations anyways, usually people take pictures anyways. So for me, the only difference is I go to spots where I take pictures for a client, but I always fit in the fun. Hopefully, I'm not sure if that answered it, but I always try to do fun and just like go to dinner, have fun with friends, learn about the culture, meet new people. So that's part of it. And that's what's interesting. But because travel always costs money, it's good to have that balance. So I'm lucky that I can have brands that help me with that. Even though that's not the reason, but that's the business, the nature of the business. But when I'm working, I work a lot of hours because it's hard work. It's not glamorous. You're in a Jeep going up Bromo Mountain. You woke up at 2 a.m., but you went to bed at like 11. So you got 3 hours sleep to get to the top of Bromo just to get sunrise. It's cuckoo. You don't even, like, you're like still asleep and you're in this Jeep and you're like bouncing around and you're going up. So it's super exciting because like you're just junked on adrenaline. Like I'm just like, I want more. But then after that day, and then you come down Bromo Mountain, well, you're in your Jeep for another 2-3 hours because there's traffic and there's one road. So it's not glamorous at all. But I definitely try to do, I kind of wish I just went to the resort and then photographed the resort and then hung out in the pool and got the nice view. So I probably should do that. Definitely not glamorous. And there's a lot of hard time to it.
But do you think like visa formalities also one of your handicap to travel around the world as photographer because you're not at all?
No, there's no. I'm lucky because I'm Canadian passport and then U.S. passport. So before COVID, we had no problems getting visa. Yeah, so we had no problems getting a visa to go anywhere. And the beautiful thing of not being a criminal is you're accepted to be able to travel because you're security cleared and you already are able. You know, you're not going to cause problems and you just kind of go and travel. So there's never a visa problem. I noticed that's a good question because from your perspective, you get a visa, it's difficult, and then to come over here, it's a way more difficult process. But for some reason, for me to come to your guys' country or to go to some country in Asia or going down the list, like I think you go to China, it's a little bit difficult, but you can get it, and then you start going down the list. And when you get to South Asia, it just seems that they love travel and they love tourism, they love it, and I love that. So we get along great. So that's a really good question. But no, I fortunately don't have problems, but I get limited visas. Like Vietnam was limited. When I come to Indo this time, it'll be on a business visa. So I only have 2 months, and then I have to go out and then renew it or have to renew it or something. I have a lawyer that helps me, but depends on the country. It can be a pain in the butt for sure. Because Vietnam's limited, which is tough because there's so much stuff to see up there. So you have to actually leave and then reapply and just get a new visa. It's easy to get the visa most times. I don't think I've ever had a problem getting a visa, but that is a good question. But when you're from Indonesia and you want to get a visa to go to different countries, it's probably much easier, I guess, for you guys to pop around to Malaysia or go to Singapore and then, you know, up the coast all the way up. But to go over to Western world is to get a visitor visa, I know can be more difficult for you guys. So, and the only reason I think they make it difficult is because people come and they try to stay and then they don't leave and things like that. But tourism is usually always welcome. It just depends on the country. Sometimes there's a bit more of a process that is not always fun. So yeah, luckily the visas to go to Indonesia is actually, it's really nice to travel there. I love it, you know? And they're always friendly. You guys are always so nice. It reminds me of Canada. When I get off the plane, I almost want to hug them. Hello, I'm back. And they just stamp my passport. They don't want to chat. So, but yeah, no, the visas have been okay. Now, I don't know. After all this stuff in the world right now, I'm not sure what we're going to be facing. I really hope that it's not as gnarly as everyone says. You know, I really try and have faith in humanity that they'll do the right thing and we'll be allowed, you know, to travel the way that we used to. But I don't know. That's a good question. Thank you.
Travel kan harus bawa banyak uang ya, tapi karena dia ini adalah fotografer, jadi dia punya sponsor, jadi agak merasa terbantu dengan bagaimana untuk di-manage selama perjalanan. Yang kedua adalah apa tadi tentang visa ya, bahwa karena dia ini pakai atau dia punya 2 paspor yang Kanada sama Amerika, jadi akan lebih mudah untuk keliling dunia ketimbang kita yang orang Indonesia. Jadi kalau untuk orang Jerman sendiri juga punya banyak kemungkinan untuk keliling dunia, tapi tidak untuk orang Indonesia. Tapi ternyata dia sebagai orang Kanada dan orang Amerika sendiri, dia bisa kemana saja. Kemudian dia tadi cerita sedikit tentang Bromo ya, bahwa ternyata untuk menjadi seorang fotografer itu harus tidak merasa glamour gitu ya. Jadi harus merasakan suka dukanya juga. Seperti hanya kalau ke Bromo kan harus 3 jam naik mobil, terus lihat matahari, habis itu balik lagi 3 jam. Jadi itu tantangan mental dan juga badan ya, energi dari fotografer itu sendiri. Baik teman-teman, karena sekarang sudah jam 11.38 di Jerman, atau di Indonesia mungkin 17.38, atau di California ini jam 2.38, dan teman-teman banyak yang akan menjalankan ibadah sholat maghrib. Saatnya kita untuk menutup acara. Jadi saya garis bawahi bahwa apa yang diceritakan oleh Gregg ini setidaknya membuka mata kita sebagai orang Indonesia untuk semakin mencintai Indonesia dan tentu saja memanfaatkan kekayaan alam yang ada di negara kita ini, misalnya menjadi fotografer bisnis. membuat video atau membuat tulisan tentang Indonesia dan lain sebagainya. Nah, kemudian dia juga sudah berbagi banyak tentang tips-tips bagaimana untuk menjadi fotografer pemula sampai dengan fotografer yang sudah mempunyai bisnis. Baik, untuk selanjutnya saya ucapkan terima kasih sekali lagi buat Mas Oni yang sudah nge-host kita dan sekitar 58 peserta yang sudah hadir. Terima kasih sekali untuk waktunya, juga untuk KJRI dan International Office UPGRIS Semarang. Sebelum kita berpisah, saya ingin semoga mau untuk menyalakan videonya. Kita akan foto bareng-bareng sebagai dokumentasi. Ada 3 halaman. Setelah itu kita akan berpisah. Saya ucapkan sekali lagi terima kasih. Jumpa lagi minggu depan. Minggu depan kita akan membicarakan lagi hal yang sama. Wonderful Indonesia dengan salah satu wisatawan, maksud saya ada salah satu bule dari Jerman yang lama tinggal di Bali. Dia akan cerita banyak tentang Bali dan Sumatera, bagaimana perjalanannya mengelilingi Bali dan Sumatera dan kemudian sekarang tinggal di Bali. Untuk itu silakan mendaftarkan di Zooming Koteka 16 di Bitly seperti biasa, dan nanti akan diumumkan di WhatsApp group siapa yang berhak mendapatkan 5 buku untuk hari ini. Jadi semoga masih tetap bergabung di WhatsApp group. Setelah itu bisa meninggalkan ruangan pada hari Minggu atau hari Senin. Saya kira gitu aja. Saya ucapkan terima kasih semuanya, Pak Nur, Dek Sabrina, Mas Oni, Mbak Nani, dan tentu saja Gregg Jaden. Goodbye. Terima kasih semuanya. Jumpa minggu depan ya.